in northeastern province, more so in the asal areas, especially in areas such as Tana River, Lamu, the former northeastern Wajir, Garissa, and Mandera, and other parts, even to in the North Rift. A number of teachers have lost their lives in the last 10 years, and this has actually caused a number of problems. But more specifically, recently, we had certain incidences in Mandera. That's why, as members of this committee, we wrote to you and we asked you the following: that in view of the foregoing, the committee has resolved to meet you to discuss the following issues. That one, Shabab insurgents since 2011 in the asal areas and other affected areas in the country. Two, the measures being taken to protect teachers stationed in asal areas and other parts of the country that are prone to security threats. Three, the collaboration between the Ministry of Education, Teacher Service Commission, and the Ministry of Interior in relation to protection of teachers in areas prone to and experiencing insecurity. Four, the challenges experienced in the protection of teachers in asal areas and other parts of the country experiencing high level of insecurity. Five, any other recommendation the committee may consider with regards to this. Waziri, you know that you were to appear last week, but because of national security concerns you had and commitments, you actually indicated you appear today. We want to thank you for having kept time. Actually, you agreed 9, and you are here exactly a few minutes to 9. So you also understand the sanctity of life, which is actually what the Constitution talks about, the role of the teachers in ensuring that we nurture education, which is actually, the Constitution says education is free and compulsory. So you have another task, Waziri, to ensure that that is actually provided for. Life is saved and education is provided. So I shall open the floor for you, and we'll give you at most 20 minutes to make a presentation. After the presentation, I'll allow members to pose questions to you, and maybe 2 rounds of questions, and then we can conclude. So, Waziri, the floor is yours. And I would be very glad, and these members will be very glad, more specifically on the very recent issues in Northeastern. More so, they were in Marsabit, Mandera, which were very common, very recent one. You need to address those cases and what you are doing now to ensure that those teachers are protected. Thank you.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, good morning, and thank you for inviting us for this very important discussion relating to the security of our teachers in the northern part of our country. Honorable Chair, let me start by saying that we, as the Interior Ministry, is concerned with the spate of deaths and injuries that have affected our teachers in northern Kenya, especially during the last 10 years. And that 10-year program period is the period in which we've had a major security threat emanating from the Al-Shabaab militants. As you are aware, from 2011 is when we started having this Al-Shabaab threat. And from that time, we have had a number of attacks involving civilians, and part of that civilian population that have been attacked are teachers. And I agree with you, it has had serious implications on our education, the education of our children in that part of our country. Honorable Chair, so that I remain true to what I was asked to do before this committee, I can confirm that over the last 10 years, we have had a number of deaths and injuries of teachers, mainly arising out of Al-Shabaab attacks in northern Kenya. On February 2011, one teacher was killed at a place called Gerile Police Post in Wajir South Sub-County. And this death was by a suspected Al-Shabaab attack. 4th December 2012, another teacher was killed at Shafi Primary School. This one was found murdered with 2 gunshot wounds on his chest. And again, this death was by suspected Al-Shabaab militants. On 1st July 2012, a teacher from a school called Umur Kel in Garissa was injured on the leg when the AIC church in Garissa town was attacked. Among the injured was a teacher from the school which I have indicated. Another attack, Honorable Chair, took place in 2013 where a BOM teacher at Damajale Primary School in Dadaab Sub-County of Garissa County was killed inside a police camp. And Honorable Chair and members, you realize that most of these deaths have actually appeared within or around police establishment, and I'll explain why. On 14th December 2014, we lost 18 teachers. 17 of them were working in some private schools. One of them was a TSC teacher. And these 18 teachers lost their lives when a bus they were traveling in from Mandera to Nairobi was involved in a terror attack at a place called Arabia in Mandera County. In 2015, a teacher from Galmagala Primary School in Fafi Sub-County was injured in the leg, again through an attack by Al-Shabaab militia. On 1st July 2016, a Kenyan of Islamic faith known as Salah Sabdo Farah was killed while trying to protect non-local teachers inside a bus from being killed by Al-Shabaab. And those who remember that incident will know that the then president awarded Mr. Salah Sabdo Farah the head of state commendation posthumously because he was killed while he was trying to plead with the militants not to attack the non-local teachers who are traveling home for holidays from Northeastern. On 6th October 2016, an ECD teacher working in Mandera North sustained gunshot wounds when a vehicle she was traveling in was ambushed and sprayed with bullets at a place called Erisuki in Mandera Central Sub-County. She was among 7 people who lost their lives in that attack. In 2017, a teacher from Fafi Primary School in Fafi Sub-County, Garissa County, was killed by suspected Al-Shabaab militia. In 2018, 2 male teachers were fatally shot in Arabia Arabia Boys Secondary School at the staff quarters within the school, and later their bodies were burnt beyond recognition. 2 other non-local teachers who were residing within the school escaped unhurt. On 16 February 2018, 2 BOG teachers of Karsa Primary School were shot dead at Karsa Primary School in Wajir East Sub-County. On 16 February 2018, 3 non-local teachers were ambushed in their houses and shot dead at Korof Harar Sub-County in Wajir County. In 2020, 3 teachers from Kamude Primary School, Garissa County, were killed by Al-Shabaab militia. On 24th April 2020, a teacher at Karasa Primary School again sustained multiple gunshot wounds on the ankle, on the right leg, and the heel of the left leg while traveling in a bus along Korof Harar Road, Karsa Road. 15th December 2020, a teacher at Karsa Primary School again encountered suspected Al-Shabaab militants between Konton and Tarbaj in Wajir County and was injured on the right ear. In 2021, a male local teacher who was reporting to his station after recruitment by TSC lost his life after the vehicle he was traveling in was attacked by suspected Al-Shabaab militants. 31st January 2022, the head teacher of Warankara Primary School was killed in an improvised device, IED, attack between Arabia and Mandera town. On 21st June 2023, a teacher at Aresa Girls Secondary School survived an IED attack between Wargagut. This is last month, Chair. 2 months ago, June 21st, this year, a teacher at Aresa Girls Secondary School survived an IED attack between Wargagut and Elele and sustained serious injuries. Then, about 3 weeks ago, on 14th, 2023, finally, a teacher was killed in Wargagut Police Station, Mandera Sub-County, during a night attack by suspected Al-Shabaab militant. What this shows, Honorable Chair and members, is that we've lost quite a number of teachers. The biggest attack, of course, was the 2014 attack where we lost 18 teachers at one go. But every other year since 2011, when the Al-Shabaab group was formed, we have had 1 or 2 to 3 teachers killed, injured every year. And this, of course, has had devastating implications on our education standards and the stability of the teaching professionals in that area. What measures have the government taken to protect teachers who are stationed in arid and semi-arid areas and other parts of the country that are facing security threats? One of the measures we have taken, Honorable Chair, is to engage stakeholders. We had meeting and we have urged the education fraternity to continuously review the security needs and the changing nature of the threats that teachers are facing so that we can be able to serve and respond to those threats. In Mandera County, Chair, I can report that the teachers teaching around Ouagadougou, Tarbe, Muratelo, Kothot, Jibal, and neighboring areas, we have temporarily removed them from those facilities to a more safer area within Elwak town, because it was agreed after consulting with the stakeholders that for the time being, until the current threat is contained, the recent wave of threat is contained, it is not advisable to keep those teachers in isolated places in the schools and other places where they have been staying. So they are all staying in one area, and they are being escorted to their workstation and back until we contain the current wave of threats. And this we do all the time, and not just for that area. Right now, Honorable Chair, we are facing a number of threats in northern Kenya. As you are aware, as late as yesterday, we've had an attack at the upper coast in the Lamu area, at the intersection of Lamu and Tana River. And in our assessment, we have intelligence that the presence of terror elements has increased in that region in the last few months for reasons that are beyond Kenya, because there are reasons which are external, emanating from activities in Somalia at the moment. And therefore, what we have done in that general region, we have taken the decision that all teachers will be evacuated and pulled at safe points, and then they will be escorted to and from school until we flush out the current threat, mainly in Garissa, Wajir, southern Wajir, and much of Mandera County. So we are withdrawing non-local teachers to safe areas because we consider this to be a period of high security threat. We are pulling teachers together. Teachers who are operating in a certain locality, we pull them together to reside in a central safe place where they are guarded by security officers and escorted to and from work. We are also intensifying dominance patrols in routes frequently used by the non-local teachers, and we have actually proved that dominance patrols, or what we call clearance patrols, are very effective in terms of warding off these terror elements. We have just started that, and we hope to increase our patrols and some of the routes, for example, between Elwak and Mandera. We have intensified our patrols there, but we also want to include other routes, especially that corridor between Wajir, coming southwards to Tarbaj and into Garissa, Abaswen, Garissa. So dominance patrols, or what we call picketing, is what we want to upscale in most of those areas that are affected. And we had the same problem in the Lamu area, and one of the things that really helped us is the picketing patrols. Even yesterday's attack, one of the things that saved us, the target was to hurt hundreds of people who were traveling in buses, but luckily when the attack happened, there was a patrol. The special forces were just 2 kilometers on patrol, and that's why they were able to neutralize that threat before it could cause many fatalities. That is the strategy we want to employ for the main routes in northern Kenya, especially targeting the closure and opening of schools, because also experience has shown us, Chair, that most teachers are hurt, they are injured, they are killed, they are attacked, either during the closing or opening of schools. Why? Because they travel together. If they are not local teachers, maybe they are traveling to Nairobi or other parts of the country.
Waziri, your time is up.
Yeah.
So I would wish that in the remaining questions,
Yeah.
you take us through the questions, and then you'll explain in the subsequent questions, so that I'll still add you another 5 minutes. Will be enough, or 10?
Five is enough. Five is enough.
So that you will explain the other nitty-gritties in the subsequent question.
So the first, then, by way of summary, Chair, the first question was, I was asked to enumerate the attacks that have taken place in the last 10 years, which I have, until the latest one, which was 3 weeks ago. The second question was the measures that we have taken, and I've already almost expended some of those measures. They are on page 3 of my statement, and maybe the third issue was how we are collaborating with the TSC, and there I can say, again, it is through stakeholder meetings, which are regular. We are going to make them more regular, because those needs keep on changing from time to time. For example, after reviewing the latest attacks, Chair and members, we discovered that housing non-local teachers or keeping them inside police stations is not enough. We better even keep them in urban areas, because some of these police stations require extra fortification, so that to prevent attacks, because the militants have changed their nature of attack, and they are increasingly using either fragmented rifle grenades or other projectiles, and they are able to attack some of these facilities even from 2-3 kilometers away, and therefore the kind of fortification required is a little more sophisticated to ensure the safety of these facilities. So we are looking at whether or not we'll continue housing those teachers in police stations, or we should get them elsewhere. And Chair, for purposes of the safety of our teachers, I better leave that subject there, because we don't want to say exactly where we are taking them, but we'll take them to safer places. The other question, Chair, was the challenges that we are facing in protecting teachers in these areas. Limited personnel. We as a country have enough general duty police officers, but the type of threats that is faced in northern Kenya and other areas with serious security challenges require more deployment of specialized elite police units, and we don't have enough. We don't have enough of this. We are working towards enhancing, because those kind of threats can only be addressed through very, very complicated security operations that are not available to the general duty policing contingents. That's one of the challenge. Some of the locations are in very remote areas. The schools are far away and far in between, and that makes it impossible for us to be present elsewhere. And then there's a lot of fake news that is causing alarm sometimes unnecessarily because of social media. There's a bit of incitement, even from the local communities, against non-local teachers. So some of the threats are coming from the local communities themselves, and we must therefore look towards engaging local communities to accept the reality that they don't have enough teachers and they will rely on teachers from elsewhere. And even as they work towards generating their own adequate capacity of local teachers, they will still need non-local teachers to fill that gap. So when they incite harm on non-local teachers, they're actually harming the education of their own children. We have the social amenities are scarce, and therefore most teachers are attacked when they are leaving their stations to go and look for social amenities. So that's a long-term development challenge that we need to look at. And or being even recruited into some of these networks is real. So we would recommend shorter periods of service for non-local teachers in those areas. We also recommend that we need to have a framework for sharing information between the teaching authorities and security authorities, and remove the tensions that exist between us and the education sector. We should also have a long-term way of recruiting adequate local teachers from those areas. We should also consider giving scholarships to local students from northern Kenya, so that they can take up teaching positions in their own areas as a long-term issue. We also don't know how it will be feasible if the opening and closing dates can be staggered for schools, because most attacks happen when teachers are traveling together on opening or closing day. Then we may also consider, the education authorities may consider a risk allowance for teachers who are not local and they are working in these areas, some extraneous allowance, and or even perhaps flight tickets for teachers, because most of the attacks happen when the teachers are traveling by road. And then invest in technology where virtual learning really can reduce the need for physical movement of teachers from one place to another. So, Chair, we have a written statement which we have submitted to this committee for record and further engagement. But let me end by saying nobody has the solution to the situation we are facing there. My assurance from where I sit is that we have decided we will get the security situation in northern Kenya tackled permanently. That area for a long time has faced an inordinately bigger challenge security-wise than other parts of the country. And now that we've made some inroads in northern Rift Valley, where banditry was also becoming cancerous, our focus now as the Interior Ministry is northern Kenya and Upper Coast. And I want to assure the education fraternity, the people of northern Kenya, and the people of Kenya, we will resolve the insecurity in northern Kenya. The current wave of terror is external. It is caused by the push down by the Somali government in collaboration with the communities in Somali, which have ganged up with the government to flush out Al-Shabaab. And what that has meant is that many of those terrorists are escaping towards our territory. And that's why, even as we moved towards discussing normalizing the reopening of the border, the current wave made us take a break from that process, and we suspended the reopening of the border until we tackle this problem permanently and we can restart the border reopening discussions after we are sure that our country is safe from the threat of terror. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Waziri. You've taken almost 30 minutes. Members, I would wish that we'll have 2 rounds of questions before we conclude this discussion. And I'll start with Honorable Malulu, Honorable Jerusha, Honorable Professor Barto, Honorable Abdul, and Honorable Member for Igembe. That is first round. So we'll start with those questions. Waziri, before I just want to ask this. In your presentation, I've just realized that about 7 teachers that is reported from your document have lost their lives. 5 injured. And over time, several administrations have tried to bring this down, but to no concrete conclusion. When teachers are attacked in this security installation, teachers are killed, the government looks like they are not taking it, acting tough. Right now, 2 teachers were killed one teacher was killed a few months ago. Do you think it is better to herd teachers into pools in communities, or do you pull them out completely from the region and then you employ the locals so that you stop that? 2, why is Al-Shabaab targeting the non-locals? Because if they are attacking teachers, they should attack all teachers indiscriminately. That means the ministry or the government has not gotten the root cause. About 10 teachers are in a school, 2 are non-locals, 8 are locals, but they only go for the non-locals. What is the reason? Yes, that Honorable Malulu.
Thank you, Chair. The CS says that people who are causing this terror are the locals. I want to agree with you in this way. We have chiefs, we have assistant chiefs, we have village elders, we have nyumba kumi. I want to give you a case in my local school. When there was some people planning to ban a school, the nyumba kumi village elders, one of them just called me, and the matter was arrested. May I know, when you are talking of locals, who is this local? Are they the powerful local people, or who precisely? Because when you talk of people calling to some action, I believe we have MPs there, we have governors there, we have MCS there. What are they doing about this? Are they saying anything? Are they speaking anything? Or are the people who are causing this terror? Number 2, we have, you said you are pulling these teachers into one area from where they are being lifted, escorted to schools to teach. Now, in your report, what I have in my possession, the attack in Warkadud, 12 teachers were affected. I don't know if you're aware of that. In your report, it's not there. 12 teachers were affected. All of them were lifted to TSC. Now, the report you have contradicts what's on the ground. All the 12 teachers were asked to go back home. I have 2 teachers in my constituency who are awaiting communication. What's the position on this? Thank you.
Chair, thank you. What I also wanted to ask has been asked, but my mind will be on the local teachers and the non-local teachers. When the local teachers are within the police stations, still they are attacked within the police station. And then the police officers are still alive, but the teachers are dead. What is happening? Is it that some of the officers are cooperating with the locals to make sure that they send away the non-local teachers? Number 2, if the problem which has escalated now is as a result of what is happening in Somalia, how prepared are we as Kenyans? Because if Somalia is doing away with the Al-Shabaab, should we be ready to welcome them in our country? Because it is going to be a big problem. They will now, from teachers, maybe they will go to the offices and start killing our people who are doing the work that we have given them for this country. So as a country, how prepared are we to make sure that what is happening in the other side does not affect us here in our country, Kenya? Thank you.
Professor?
Thank you, Chair. Basically, my question has been asked in a different way, but from the presentation of the CS and the recommendations which he has given, I could read some hopelessness in the sense that is whatever is proposing, like now paying flights for teachers, and most of his statements were beginning with may, should. So I'm really worried when it is coming from the highest authority on matter security, and he could seem to be sending some signal that his hands are not tied, he has no solution. And then finally is, what is the magnitude of the killings of the other populace as compared to the teachers? Is it the teachers who are only affected, or generally the other members of the community is also facing the same? My concern is why teachers?
Thank you. Yes, Abdul?
I must say I come from the region affected, and given I have a lot of hindsight in what is happening and what the government is doing, I must take this opportunity to inform my colleagues in the committee that some very good work is happening there in terms of what the government is doing in terms of security, and also what the leadership is doing in terms of dealing with security. I know my constituency, for example, Elwak, was the last station you visited in Northeastern, the last time you visited. Having said that, this problem is a massive problem, and it is affecting our entire nation, because we have non-locals who are coming from all walks of life from every part of this country, serving in that part of the world. Basically because there are teaching jobs available, and there are very many Kenyans who are unemployed, who are qualified as teachers and who would want to get employed there. Al-Shabaab has been a problem to this country, and has been a problem particularly to that region. And they are against everything that we are as Kenyans. They are against our culture. They are against our way of life. They are against our democracy. They are against our government.
Honorable Abdul, are you making a presentation or asking a question?
I will ask a question, but I am building to that, Chair, Honorable Chair.
So go straight to the question because of time.
Okay, Chair. What I was trying to say is, it's not time to blame each other that so and so is doing or is not doing. Some questions that have been asked about what the leadership in Northeastern is doing has been asked to the minister. I will wait for your answer, then I will contribute what I can be able to contribute later on. I did not hear whether you said it is non-local skilling, it's the local skilling, the non-local teachers, but one member has asked a question to that effect. I will wait for your answer before I answer that. Your recommendations are fine, but I will want to tell you is the
honorable member for Kibra.
I'm just asking my colleague whether he's giving solution to the CS or asking questions.
Thank you. I'm asking my question. I'm just trying to contextualize that question before I ask it. Thank you, honorable member. My question is the minister aware that there are no security personnel in some of the remote areas, and it becomes very difficult for non-local teachers or even local teachers to report even, a security threat on time. Sometimes it can take even 12 hours for a report to reach the nearest police station because of the remoteness of the school. And one of the reasons is because the telephone connectivity in some of those areas has been wanting, and Safaricom, for some reasons, is even coming to pull down some of the telephone masts covering some of those areas.
Honorable Abdul, be kind and specific. You are now taking the role of
I'm being specific. I'm saying,
you
for
are
example,
taking the role of the CS. Your question is what? Can you be straight to the point?
Okay. Is the minister aware that there are some teachers who have been spending in different houses every night because they are running away from insecurity, and some of them have been spending in police stations? What can be done to be able to help these teachers deal with this problem?
Thank you. You're proceeding?
Just the final one. I know some members want to be sensational, but I will just try to ask my last question and wait for the second round.
Chair, what's the point of order? Why is he saying that some members want to be sensational?
Okay, I withdraw that statement.
You withdraw that statement.
I withdraw that statement.
Yes.
But it will appear. It will come up. I know.
Honorable Abdul, you are out of order.
Okay, I withdraw that statement.
Yes.
Is the minister aware? You've mentioned that one of your recommendations is that you've recommended that TSC should pay, for example, air flights for the teachers, especially during the closure and opening of schools for facilitating. Is the minister aware that right now the non-local teachers who are in Northeastern, particularly in Mandera and Wajir, are not able to travel by road to their stations because the police at every roadblock will not even allow them to pass that roadblock in PSVs unless they fly to those regions? And I was asking, is it possible, like the arrangement you have in Lamu? I'm aware you're using military choppers to transport teachers to schools during opening and closure. Is it possible to use military choppers to facilitate these teachers to travel from their local stations to? Yeah, thank you.
Final, be very brief, Honorable Taitumu.
Okay, thank you, On Chair. Waziri, mine will be very brief. But having been a teacher, a chair, and a senior member of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, I understand the complexities compounded in Northeastern as far as issues of teachers are concerned. But I want to ask this. Waziri said that most of teachers are killed at police stations. He told us that he will say why, but Waziri have not told us why. However, if you look at the answers given by Waziri, is that most of the answers tend to be reward answers other than deterrent measures. Because Northeastern, when we talk about non-locals, flashing out non-locals, I believe there is an element of maybe a move geared to reward their people. Because you have seen the element of collusion. If there is collusion, non-locals are flashed out as teachers. Currently, they are employing teachers who completed their colleges in 2022, 2023, when other parts of this country are employing teachers who completed their course in 2011 and other years below. If they manage to expel all teachers from Northeastern, they will go to doctors, they will go to other cadres of the civil service. By so doing, do we mean that we are about to lose Northeastern to Somalia? Because I believe if all the civil service is from Northeastern, because there's this clamor of even employ people of lower grades so that they can teach in Northeastern. What it implies is that now Northeastern is a different country or is a different state from Kenya, because education is an equalizer. People should be treated equally, whether you're in Northeastern or another part of this country. If this is the case, therefore, what are we doing as deterrent measures as opposed to reward measures that we are getting?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Waziri, I think you'll answer those questions, and I think, Waziri, you'll also give us statistics on other civil servants, other than teachers, who have actually been affected by this. Also, Waziri, you need to note that in 2017, this committee actually, as a measure to stop, maybe to allow the locals in Northeastern to be employed, this committee actually directed Teacher Service Commission to have continuous recruitment of locals in Mandera, in Wajir, in Garissa and Lamu. Actually, to have the teacher shortage crisis to be brought down and to reduce the number of non-locals going up. But my last question is this. Ethiopia has a very large border with Somalia, and this issue is not there. We've been looking at international news. It is only in Kenya where it looks like our border is so porous and easily for attack. What is your colleague in Ethiopia or your counterpart in Ethiopia doing right that he has managed to stop Al-Shabaab infiltration there? Thank you.
May I, Chair? Thank you, Chair. Chair and honorable members, on the first question, the pooling of teachers in one area for their protection is the short-term solution. The long-term solution will be to...
Order. Sergeant Atam, you don't need to bring in everybody. You need only essential staff so that we don't have a crowded room. So ensure that non-essential staff or individuals, you can even reduce the members of the fourth estate. If there are so many from one media station, you can reduce them so that we have a good working environment. Kindly note that. Proceed, Waziri.
Pulling the teachers in one location for their safety is a short-term measure. The long-term measure is to ensure that area is safe, just like the rest of Kenya. And I've already given my commitment that we will clean up that place, and those threats will not be there going forward. We will do whatever it takes to make sure we clean up that place from the threat of Al-Shabaab. Secondly, Chair, the issue of why, terror uses an ideology. One of the ideology angles of terror is religion. But it can also use political ideology, cultural ideology to terrorize people. Because, Chair, you asked me why target non-local teachers. It's an ideology that we terrorize society by dividing the local community from the community that is not local, either on religious lines or whatever other lines. And that explains why there has been a focus on teachers who are not from that region. It's a strategy of terrorists to cause division within society. Now, the other question which was asked was about the role of communities. The role of communities in the fight against terror. And I think a suggestion has been made. It will be dangerous for us to start apportioning blame and saying the leaders are to blame, or the administration is to blame, or the security agencies are to blame. The solution to the problem in the north is to do what has been done in Somalia. I think that's the best practice we can get, is what has happened in Somalia, where the local community together have decided enough is enough with Al-Shabaab. So the communities have organized themselves and said, can government come and help us organize ourselves to fight Al-Shabaab. So the fight against Al-Shabaab in Somalia is being led by communities with the support of government. And I think for me that's where we are headed. And already we are getting very positive feedback from leadership of all cadres from that area, that the communities are ready to assist government tackle the Al-Shabaab problem, because you cannot have a police officer guarding every homestead and guarding every citizen. It's not even feasible. And I've also said that because of the very close relationship in terms of language, religion, and culture between our brothers and sisters in Northeastern and the people who come from the other side of the border, this problem can only be resolved if it is community-led with the support of government, so that again we don't have anarchy. And if we try that, I think we'll achieve a lot of progress. The Honorable Malulu.
On that note, Waziri,
Yeah.
it means that you are yet to start, or you have started it already?
We are on it.
You are on it?
We are on it. We are actually engaging. We are on it.
Thank you.
We are on it. That's why I spoke very confidently. I said it's just a matter of time. In the next few months, we'll crush all those elements and get our country back. Because I think everybody now in our country is fed up with this problem. And the problem is temporary. Chair and members, I think there was also a question about other teachers who were affected in the last attack. The question I was asked to answer before you today was on death and injuries in the last 10 years, not on the affected teachers. So I know there are others who were affected in that attack, but they were neither they were not killed or injured, so they were not part of my statistics, but they were evacuated. And in terms of when they will go back, we believe that by the time schools reopen, we'll have gotten the situation back to order. So I'm sure by the time schools reopen at the end of this month, we'll have reversed the situation there. Those teachers should be able to return to work. The other question was why teachers are being attacked inside police stations. I've explained, and you know, this is the danger of announcing some of the measures that we are taking. You know, that's why you find my statement is the way it is, deliberately. Because it was made public that the non-local teachers are residing in police stations for their safety. So it became easy for these terrorists to target them from there. As to why, for instance, they would attack and kill the teachers and not police officers, part of it is divide and rule. You attack and overpower police posts if the numbers are not adequate to withstand the insurgents or the terrorists. But deliberately, they will just kill the teachers and leave out the police officers. You know, it's up to them. You can't tell a terrorist you must kill everybody. It's their way of doing things. Because those deaths are terror-driven and they are supposed to communicate a certain message. And that message is divisive and is whimsical to the terrorists. But over and above that, I have said that because of the changing nature of tactics, most of the teachers actually have been killed while traveling. The ones that have been killed inside police stations are few in the last few years. How prepared are we now that there is an influx of Al-Shabaab militia from southern Somalia? We are prepared as aware because we already know where the problem is, and I think it is fair because, again, Chair, you said that 37 teachers, which is true, is what we have in our records of teachers who have died in the last 10 years in that area, which is a big number. Even one teacher is a big number. But it's not just teachers. We have also lost security officers. Many more security officers have lost their lives in the last 10 years. In fact, in the last 2.5 months, we have lost 30 security officers in that region, including National Police Service officers, Kenya Defence Force officers, and some of our elite formed units in the National Police Service who have died in the line of duty in that general area. In 2.5 months, nearly 30, about 20, actually 29. Now the 37 teachers is over 10 years. The security officers' statistics is the last 2.5 months. So I think that should be contextualized that way. And then you also asked, Chair, other professionals. We haven't had many other segments of society affected by this problem, except road workers, engineers. We have lost a few engineers. I think this year we have lost like four engineers who are road engineers in that Ijara corridor, Garissa, Lamu, Garissa, Isiolo corridor. We've lost some engineers. We also lost early in the year, I think around January, 5 other Kenyans, who included 3 hydrologists who are actually digging boreholes near the border of Kenya-Somalia border. So mainly it is contractors who have been affected, and then the teachers. We are not yet, we have not registered the death of other segments of society. Then, if we remove the non-local teachers, I want to agree with the sentiments. I think the building of the local communities to generate their own teaching fraternity or teaching force should be a natural process to empower that community. It should not be driven by the fact that teachers from elsewhere are being attacked. That would be a very dangerous policy, because you're ceding ground to terrorists and telling them because you're killing these people, we remove them from there. So I want to support the member who said that should not be policy. It cannot be our policy as government, as a country. Those teachers should stay there as long as it is possible. But in the normal order of empowering our communities and every part of our country to have its own workforce, that process can proceed on those lines. Then the other issue was why Ethiopia has had less attacks. Again, you know, the way terror works. Terror is not scientific. You know, is deliberate. And I think the member who spoke about these terrorists having an agenda against our country spoke to it. That the grievances that perhaps the terrorists are more on our side, on our part as Kenya than other countries. And that's why perhaps we have received a little more brunt than our neighboring countries. Going forward, Chair, I want to assure members that just as we have had other problems and they have come and gone, we will get this problem done. I must also say that the recent wave of attacks will be contained once the modernization program of our equipment gets underway, and we've made some very good progress, and that's why I'm very hopeful in the coming weeks, because we are modernizing a number of our equipment, our capabilities in that region. That, together with community-led, government-organized onslaught against these militias should set that region free in the coming weeks and months. If I have left out anything, you will let me know. Chair, I am aware also, I think there's a member who asked whether we are aware some of the areas are so remote, there are no security agencies even to report crime to. It is true. Of course, there are unique developmental and structural and systemic long-term problems in northern Kenya compared to other parts of the country. And those are the hard questions we must ask ourselves if we have to get security right in that region so that we achieve the same standard of security as we have in other parts of the country. Then we must open that area to development, build roads, build water facilities, electricity, mobile connectivity, which is reasonable enough. Otherwise, it is not enough to secure a large area. And for the benefit of members, some of those areas are location actually. Some of those locations are the size of sub-counties, if not more. And it's not possible to police those areas without the infrastructural support. The other challenge we have again is that, as I have said, these unique challenges require more of the elite formations of our police personnel than the general policing personnel, because the weapons the militants use are sophisticated, the tactics are sophisticated, and therefore we are investing more in the formed units, and going forward we as a policy will be reducing the general duty police personnel in that area and the similarly situated areas, so that we put more specialized units that are able to deal with sophisticated crimes and sophisticated threats to security. We have more personnel of that type as opposed to general duty police, which we can reserve for areas that do not have as complicated threats as northern Kenya. Then there was the issue of telephone masts. We are engaging the MNOs to make sure that they support us with communications. We've had some damages, especially I think last month we got one major mast which is quite significant in that area. Prior to the latest attack, that mast was attacked. It was guarded by NPRs, but I think the terrorists managed to overpower our NPRs, and that mast is being repaired, and we are asking the MNOs to support us, and also the Universal Service Fund through the Communications Authority, to make sure that we increase our mobile telephone network in that general area, to make sure that we expand our communications capabilities and match it with the current threats.
Are you through, Waziri?
Yes.
So we'll come for the second and last round of questions. I'll start with the Honorable Orero, Honorable Kisairo. You introduce yourself before you, Honorable Ann and Honorable Maungu. This time a question, not a presentation. Thank you, yes. Honorable Orero.
Mimi naitwa Mwalimu Orero, mbunge wa Kibra. Bwana CS, our colleagues tell us that Mandera is 60% controlled by Al-Shabaab. Are you aware of this, and what are you doing? Two, I have seen that the last 1 week you deployed brutal force to deal with innocent demonstrators. If you can use this brutal force along the borders, don't you think you can stop these Al-Shabaabs? Now, three, is it such a coincidence that all heads of security apparatus in this country come from northern Kenya? And why have they failed to deal with the Al-Shabaabs? You have just said that you have stopped the opening of the border. That is theoretical. The border is not stopped, it is opened. And that is why we have Al-Shabaabs in this country. Why can't you advise the relevant authorities that this border should not be opened? Now, you have also said you are formed units which are scaled. You are saying you are going to form. This country is one of the countries, and we are highly ranked that we have special units. Now, why can't you use these special units to deal with the sophisticated Al-Shabaabs instead of using the special units to look for an armed people in this country? Now, lastly...
Order, Honorable Morero. Honorable Morero, you need to indicate who are unarmed and who have been looked upon.
The demonstrators like us.
You need to be... yes.
Is it in order to make security issues that are very pertinent to this country with the issues of demonstrations, where we end demonstrators armed against Article 37 of the Constitution that talks about peaceful demonstrations?
Yes, and I think, Orero, you need to know 37 teachers and more unreported have died. So we don't need to trivialize this with demonstrations. We know demonstrations are there, but we are talking about a very serious issue, and you introduce yourself as a teacher. So kindly address this issue of teachers, and I hope teachers are watching at you.
That is what I am saying, because it is the Al-Shabaabs attacking the teachers. In fact, when I was a teacher, I was being transferred to Northeast and I almost resigned. Because they have failed to protect the teachers in that area.
Chair.
Because of, please protect me, the chair. He will have his time. I know he was in NUT, I was also a member of the
union. Order members. Honorable Borero, stick to the questions so that we proceed. Order, Honorable Nataitum.
Okay, please protect me. And now, Buenos CS, when I look at your recommendation, you have used the term the TSC should. We want to be given timelines that the TSC must transfer the non-locals from Northeastern because of their lives. We cannot continue losing lives for teachers, yet the TSC will still drag their feet from transferring these teachers. We must have timelines. You must talk to the CEO of this TSC, and we must know when these teachers are going to be transferred. Thank you.
Yes, 2 questions, members, so that because of time, Honorable Gisairo, only 2.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Clive Gisairo, Member of Parliament, Kithure Masaba. Bwana CS, looking at your recommendation, we can feel there's a sense of hopelessness coming from your end. You've mentioned things like flight tickets. How many airports do you have in Northeastern? What's the distance from between the nearest school to the farthest airport? Because that is not a solution. They're being killed in Northeastern, so they can also be killed between the school and the airport. You've mentioned about pooling of teachers in one location. In your report, teachers are being killed in police station. So what is it that you're doing different while you pull them that they will be safer? Another one is resolving. You've said you'll resolve the insecurity in northern Kenya permanently. Bwana CS, all of us have around 5 years in office, be it elected or you as a CS. What is the timeline? We have 4 years to go. Are you planning to achieve this, or will the government achieve this within this term, or what is the probable timelines? And lastly, we've seen how many teachers have been killed. You are able to say whether it's attackers, some cases you've stated to be Al-Shabaab. How are you able to disseminate that these are Al-Shabaab and these are just local attackers who have their own issues against non-local teachers? How many have you brought to book, or is your ministry just taking statistics? How many of the attackers have been brought to book as of today? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Marada.
Ann Moratha is my name, the County Member of Parliament, Kiambu. I possibly would just want to ask the CS just one question, whether this issue has a political goodwill from the politicians. Because from the look of it, when you look at a majority of our people in the security in national government are from that region. And the other thing, we also have leaders, politicians that are elected in those counties. Now, what I'm asking myself is there a time when these people sit together? Because today, I live in Roiro, and if you ask me something about Gatuanyaga, which is the farthest end of Kiambu, I'll only need to go to the ground, and I will tell you what is happening. Those things that Kenyans call mambo kwa ground ni tofauti. I'm assuming the politicians in these areas know what is happening. Bwana CS, I would only want to ask, is there goodwill from our politicians and our leaders who are majority in the security team in this country are from that region? Are we seeing a foreplay in the security area, even in our people, having a majority of them in security and having a number of them in parliament and in the Senate? Yet we are looking very helpless and we are with them around here. What are they telling us? Because they know mambo kwa ground ni tofauti na vile tunaona.
Thank you. Honorable Maungu.
Thank you so much, Chair. Bwana CS, thank you for your presentation. I think, to me, this must be the second horrifying statement that you've read in the recent past, apart from the Shakahola cases that we heard of recent. The life of teachers, from what you've just presented, is at risk. And sad to note that this has been the case for the last 10 years or so. We may not be able to do the same thing the same way and expect to have different results. For the last 10 years, your predecessor was always loud that these are the strategies they applied. And to that extent, nothing much was achieved. You've taken up with a lot of motivation, but your presentation this morning appears to be someone who is almost losing hope with the kind of exposure you are getting out there. My question is, what is it that you intend to do different, apart from what you've given us? Because what I'm seeing here is what your predecessor used to declare, and boldly so, that will make this country safer. Teachers in Northeastern they are living in trauma. I can imagine that a teacher, after having taught through the day, will need to hide somewhere for the night or for the evening so as to appear tomorrow morning in a class and teach our kids. I tend to imagine that there's more to it than we know. Just to agree with the honorable member for Kiambu, the local leadership. In Rwanda, where I come from, in early areas, we are in a safe area, yes. But nothing can happen without the local leadership, the local village elders, or the Nyumba Kumi knowing what is it that is happening. But it appears that Northeastern is such a different area because the local leadership seems not to know, or they are playing as if not to know. What has your ministry done to ensure that this leadership, right from the Nyumba Kumi all to the county governor and what have you, have been brought on board to ensure that these deaths and the trauma and the exposure given to our teachers is actually taken care of? Secondly, someone said, Bwana CS, that if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, and quacks like one, then it is one. We need to hear more from the leadership of that area about the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Waziri, you can answer those questions. You have a question?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I have my...
Abdul?
I will ask just two questions.
Yes, specific and straight away.
Waziri, you talked about the specialized units that we need to come up with to deal with this security issue. And I know the government had established the CIPU, the Critical Infrastructure Police Unit. Is it possible to establish a specific police unit whose mandate is just to protect our schools and teachers? Or if that's not possible, is it possible to give the teachers in secure areas licensed guns so that they can protect themselves at the hour of need? Finally, you talked about the MNOs and the discussions you're having in terms of ensuring that the telephone masts that help in connectivity are not pulled down as yesterday. The mast you talked about that the NPRs tried to protect, but they were overpowered and damaged a little bit. The Safaricom had sent the engineer there to pull it down and take it away instead of repairing it to. So your answer is that they are trying to repair it, but the information we have as from yesterday is they are pulling it away. And they did the same to another area called Bohol 11 when an incident happened about 2 years ago. So that's a matter I think that needs, because if we do this, Al-Shabaab attacks, we either pull out our police or we pull
Especially on the issue of the schools are opening just a month away. They are just closing this week. In a month's time, these teachers have been stigmatized. Knowing that their colleague was shot within their range, they saw them being heal them psychologically. And two, on the same note, that the teachers are to report back in those particular regions. You know, that is part of our republic. Every Kenyan has a right to work there. What actual measures have you put in place to know that teacher A, teacher B, teacher C is safe, sound, and he can carry out these duties? And if he can't, then what is your advice on this? The Honorable Mbaka, reintroduce yourself and ask the question.
Okay, my name is Christian Mbaka, MP for Siaya, and a member of this committee. I have just one question. I'm wondering whether you do have enough police force deployed in the area, northeastern. Are they enough or are they too few? If they're too few, would you need much more, including the Air Force? Because we need to combine forces to deal with insecurity there. Maybe the police that are posted there are too few and you need more, or even if they are more and they're helpless, they cannot handle the insecurity effectively, do they need an added hand, like the Air Force should come and patrol the area at night and in the day? They keep flying over to check if the area is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. Now proceed with those questions.
Thank you, Chair. The allegation that 60% of any county in Kenya is controlled by Al-Shabaab is false, is not true, and is not the position of the government. Two, we will neutralize all the rest of our national security, wherever they come from. Therefore, I want to agree with the member for Kibra that we must be ruthless with all the rest of our national security. And that's why I assured the country we will fix the problem. I have already told you, without saying so many things, that there are some things we are working on, including the modernization of equipment. And the less these things are discussed, the better. Get it from us. We will not spare any effort, because allowing the prevailing situation to escalate will be giving up our country to evil people and to criminals. I have promised the country that we will fix the problem in the north in the coming weeks, in the coming months, and you will see activities, you will read about them, you will see us. My request is we do not politicize the law enforcement, and threats to national security, wherever they come from, should be treated as such, whether they are from Al-Shabaab, whether they are from political fundamentalists or extremists, to do damage to the country's security, we'll treat them as such. And as soon as the country stabilizes, we have no business even engaging with politicians, because that's not our forte. Chair, I take offense as a Kenyan when we accuse public officers on the basis of certain heads of security agencies coming from somewhere. These are officers of the Republic of Kenya, and I think that discussion is unhealthy. The moment you attach ethnicity to a commander or a leader of a security agencies, you are jeopardizing the national interest. So I will not venture into that discussion. The border is not open. The border is not open. Is the border porous? Yes. What are we doing about it? As we speak, we have a team that is trying to, Mutej is the team that is around, the border from last week. And we are going to see how we can enhance our border control and border management system. But the allegation that the border between Kenya and Somalia is open are not true. I am the minister in charge of borders. I have not presided over the opening of any border post, and that policy, which was put in place in 2011, has not been revised, not by cabinet, not by the National Security Council, and not by the minister. The rest is politics. Chair, with regard to the issue of formed units, a question was asked whether we need more of these units. We don't need. I think what we need to organize is the deployment and perhaps the equipment. Generally, Kenya has enough police officers. By way of example, members may want to know our current strength, which is around 110,000 police officers for a country of 53 million, is not a very bad ratio. If you compare, for example, with our neighbor, one of our neighbors, Tanzania, a country of 64 million people, their strength is around 46,000 police officers. 46,000 against 64 million. We are 52, 53 million, 110,000. So we are not doing badly.
What is the UN standards, Waziri?
It's one officer to 450, and we are approaching there. We are around 600. We are approaching there.
That's good, yes.
Yeah. Chair, we cannot direct TSC. That's not our business. TSC is an independent commission under Chapter 15. What we do is we recommend to TSC. We do security assessment, and then we recommend the way we recommend to clients, other clients, including yourselves. Politicians, you're also our clients. So we can recommend and tell you, Mheshimiwa, here, it's not safe for you. This is what you should do. It's up to you. But when the threat reaches a certain threshold, we can then impose mandatory security measures for purposes of public safety. So we encourage TSC to engage with us and other stakeholders to engage with us, give us the needs and how they want those needs resolved. But at the moment, we cannot, for example, issue a directive to TSC that you must do this to teachers, you must transfer this number of teachers. We'll be violating the constitutional principles of independent institutions. But I agree, if we assess the threats to our teachers in that area and think that perhaps we need to take compulsory security measures, we will do so without hesitation in the national interest. One of the members said that the minister looks hopeless. Nothing can be further from the truth than that. They say where there is a will, there is a way. The problems we are having in Northeastern are not impossible to tackle. That starts from there. They are not impossible to tackle. This country has enough wherewithal with a little bit of enhancement and coordination. We have enough strength, enough wherewithal, enough sophistication to neuter that threat. And therefore, I remain very optimistic that we will succeed. A question was asked how many people we have brought to book. We have brought to book very many people. But you see, and I don't know whether, Chair, your committee has visited some of these areas. Should go and spend time there. The member from Wajias there, Mandera South, will tell you, if you spend a day or two in that area, your mindset will change forever. In this sense.
Before members visit there, you need your assurance. Yes, and security.
It is part of Kenya. You should visit.
No, first of all,
you should visit.
I, being a committee member, chair in 2012, we did visit after the Gwari attack, and it was a very, very traumatizing situation.
Should visit so that you see where those teachers teach and where they spend.
Members can be a premium target for Al-Shabaab, so we need to.
I hope the teachers are not watching these proceedings. Yes. because, and I believe, Chair, with a lot of respect, that's where we go wrong. If our teachers are there, our members of parliament should go there. The minister must go there. Everybody must go there. Otherwise, we are telling our teachers that we have condemned them to go there and die. The reason I go to visit my officers there is because they are there, they are working there, so the minister must go there. And I expect every other person, heads of agencies, TSC heads, other people, the question should be, can we be facilitated to go there? The question should not be, we cannot go there, because then we are sending the wrong message to our teachers.
We are telling you, we are ready to go there under your
Where is the request?
Security. We shall give you a security.
Very well. Thank you, Chair. Other than that, I think we have... Chair, I am happy to report, actually, despite the few evil successes by terrorists, we have neutralized thousands, hundreds of threats. And many of them are not reported because of the nature of the operation, because these are armed operations. As we speak, we had an attack yesterday, I said, at the intersection of Lamu and Tana River, where the public was attacked by over 60 armed terrorists in different groups. And the target was to hurt very many people. Now that operation has been going on since yesterday. And I can report we have neutralized all those threats. All the people who attacked our people yesterday have been neutralized. All of them. All of them. So we cannot.
Maybe just for clarification, when you for us now, we are lay people. When you talk of neutralization, what do you mean? Arrested? What do you mean? Just for us to understand.
It means the threats don't exist anymore. Because these were people who are targeting to harm passengers in 4 different buses, which was carrying a total of 200 people. As I said, luckily, on that highway between Lamu and Witu Garsen, we do what we call picketing, which is occasional patrols, not occasional, patrols throughout of security agencies, different agencies. So what happened is that the agencies were nearby and the response was very fast. So we ended up unfortunately losing one person on the spot. Another one died on the way to hospital because they were shot on the head. But the attackers were many and heavily armed, and we have been able to neutralize all of them. All of them. So there are so many success stories. And therefore, we must continually commend our security officers. We have lost many of them in some of these engagements. I am also proud to say that we have had no casualties in the operation of yesterday and early today morning. No casualties on our side. So many of these terrorists have been brought to book in one way or the other. That is my answer. Those that we arrest, we take them to court. We have anti-terrorism court here in Kamiti and other places in Shanzu. Those that we arrest, we take them to court. But many of them, there is no chance to arrest them. The opportunity to arrest them is not there, because it's either they clear our officers or, yes, so that's what happens. So yeah, let's leave it there and say that is there goodwill? Again, I am reluctant to blame any particular person without evidence. But let me put it this way, that the Al-Shabaab and other terrorists cannot succeed unless they are aided and abetted by some of us, members of our society, who give them food, intelligence, and other local information. That is the truth. Let's be honest with each other. And it doesn't have to be a politician or a chief. Even local communities, our own brothers and sisters, our intelligence is showing that in some of the attacks, when we do investigations, we find that the attackers could have accessed the village or the target 2-3 days before, and there were people, citizens of Kenya, who were supplying them with food, for example. Kenyans, for money, they get a little amount of money from these fellows, and they give information. So we have a lot of work to do without blaming each other, because the greed, the culture of greed for money is not just a problem with us who are in high office. Even our brothers and sisters in the villages suffer the same culture. You get 100,000 and you sell information that leads to a successful terror attack. So we must work together with elected leaders, government officials, communities, and own up to our own national problem of greed, which has assisted some of these terrorists to succeed in their attacks. So I believe there is goodwill, and if there are 1 or 2 people who may not be cooperating, it's because it's a systemic national problem where people are not patriotic enough to detest this kind of attacks on our national security. Let me put it this way, Chair. I have decided I will not blame anybody. I have decided, as the Security Minister of Kenya, the buck stops with me. And that's why I gave the assurances I gave. The buck stops here. I will not blame the officers. I will not blame the community. I will not blame politicians. The buck stops here.
And I think, Waziri, help yourself, especially in the North Rift. I think we have seen some tranquility.
Same case.
Some schools are opening up. If with the same gusto and determination, I think we can expect good results from Northeastern.
Thank you, Chair. I will take responsibility for good results and even bad results. I'll take responsibility. Nobody else should be blamed. Then, Chair, as I went up, there was a question about what we are doing to encourage information sharing and intelligence gathering. In northern Kenya, we are investing in creating more administrative units, and we have already mapped out the whole region, and we have a whole program starting even I think as early as next week. I'll be in that region to try and operationalize some new administrative units so that you can bring services closer to the people, and we have enough more officers who can assist and work with communities to help us get community input into intelligence gathering. And we have decided, because we have a number of demands for more administrative units across the country, our number one criteria, the criteria number one, priority number one before we approve new units is security. Because we know population is a factor, but there are some populous areas which the security needs are a little lesser than other areas of the country. So security becomes a very key criteria in this. The must that my brother, the member for Mandera South, has talked about will not be pulled down, will not be taken anywhere. In fact, we will add more. That must is a major communication installation. It cannot be pulled down by anybody. We will use all the methods and all the instruments of the state to make sure that that mast is repaired. I think they want to reconstruct it afresh because it was significantly damaged, and we'll have more of those installations. As to whether we should have a special police unit on schools, we already have the critical infrastructure police unit, and schools are part of our critical infrastructure, but we can see how we can enhance deployments of SIPU. Although the kind of threat we have there is not really on the protection of the school itself, the facility. And that's why other formed units are more, other deployments of other formed units is more appropriate than just even adding SIPU officers. As a policy, we will also be decreasing, as I have said, the presence of general duty police officers in areas with extreme security challenges and deploy more formed unit, specialized elite police forces, because a small number has even much greater results. A small number of elite units has greater results than even a bigger number of general duty personnel. Finally, I believe by the time schools reopen, it will be safe for our teachers to return. We will work very hard between now and then to arrest the current situation in that area. And we, as one of the immediate measures, are going to set up more FOBs, forward operating bases, which will enhance our capabilities for special and elite formations of our security agencies. And in this regard, we are working very closely with the Kenya Defense Forces. And I will want to leave it at that. I don't want to give more details. Mine is just to assure you, Chair and members, that we realize we have a big problem there. We realize we have lost 37 teachers in 10 years. Those are too many. We realize we have lost some engineers, about 8 of them, in separate attacks this year. We have also lost approximately 30 officers of the National Police Service and the Kenya Defence Forces in that general area. We must arrest the situation, and we are determined. I give you and the country hope that we will get the situation right in the coming weeks and months, and Northeastern will enjoy peace and tranquility than before, and in the same standard as other parts of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Waziri. I think, members, we are through with our discussion. And Waziri, I want to note, to bring to your attention that this committee over the years have actually influenced the policy direction on teacher management in Northeastern region, more so on security matters. And the current happenings will actually also influence our decision on how to handle teacher management and policy directions on Northeastern, especially in regard to how Teacher Service Commission is handling the teacher recruitment, the teacher security, the teacher management, and even going forward on how we'll handle even the training of the locals to the teaching service. So, Waziri, your participation here is, your input is quite critical to this committee. It is critical to even ensuring that the whole region stabilizes in terms of education matters like the rest of the Republic. So I want to thank you so much, and I would just want to ask you one issue that you will provide this committee with actually some documentation, especially on the issue of the current state of the school infrastructure attacks and specific areas where, when we sit as a committee, we should be able to actually advise and even talk with the Teacher Service Commission on those particular areas. More so on the critical areas, the schools that are being targeted, the counties that are more prone to, and all that. So you can actually give the Secretariat that particular information. It is very important for us. Thank you so much, Waziri. I think the kind of work you did in the North Rift and the opening up of schools in Baringo is actually a motivation to this Republic, that you are able, you will be able to do it well. And more so even what you've done to the streets of this town, where you've restored law and order. Thank you so much. And that's why we want to thank you for that. Asante sana, our meeting is over. Asante. members kindly remain behind. And thank you, members of the fourth estate, for covering up. Asante sana.
The power of the chair.